Hello, good afternoon and good evening, everybody. This is Kumar from Texila American University. First of all, I would like to thank everybody to be present on this webinar. The webinar topic would be Guide for Effective Remote Working. Considering the current situations, how are we going to plan work remotely and more efficiently? And we have our speaker, Dr. Vishnu Durga. First of all, I would like to introduce him. He's the executive chairman of Action Invest Caribbean Incorporation and a certified action coach, holding a doctorate in management, specializing the entrepreneurship, as well as an MBA and an engineering qualification as well. As a past president, chairman, and counselor of several business support organizations, including the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce and the Bureau of Standards, Dr. Vishnu has over 20 years of private sector development experience. He currently serves as a vice chair of Go Invest and on the boards of numerous successful businesses. At 39, he's happily married and a father of one. He believes in his strong family values and taking care of his physical, mental, and spiritual health. Together with his team, he's very passionate about personal, professional, and organizational development and pursues his passion via numerous organizations he supports. So right now I'm living with Dr. Vishnu, and yes, Dr. Vishnu, it's all yours now.
Thank you very much, Sakti, and good afternoon, everyone. It is a pleasure being with you here today. As you can see from the cover on my slideshow, we will be talking about more effective remote working practices. In this respect, I will start off the presentation with general guidance of how to be very effective when working remotely, and then I will take it to a slightly more technical and practical level with the strategies and the tips that are really allowing me to be very productive at this point in time. On the cover there, you can actually see me with the winner of a business award. And this is a technology company that is producing software right here in Guyana. And one of the key pieces of software is especially that for productivity. This is particularly relevant because for all of us to be able to deliver on exactly what our organizations and even ourselves are required, we will need to really get used to the technology. Now, first question is, how did we get here? How did we suddenly have this urge and this need to be able to work remotely? Because working remotely has now been around for in the mainstream for nearly a decade. However, because all of us generally have the options to work within an organization, we generally did not take it as our main method of delivering our work. Now, the coronavirus, unfortunately, is the type of virus that spreads really rapidly, and especially when people are congregated very closely, and if there are infected people, it could spread very rapidly. So the best way in which the curve is flattened, and I'm sure that we are very familiar with that terminology right now. The curve is flattened in order to make sure that our healthcare facilities can actually deal with the spread that then occurs at a slower rate, has caused many of us to have to work from home. And those of us in a job as well, some of the jobs that we are in, if we are not able to use the skills of being able to work remotely, the job might not actually be there for us to get done. So it is very important that we, from that respect as well, understand how to be very productive. Now, the options, and in some of the Eastern countries, in Asia, for example, that has already faced several virus outbreaks over the past decades, it has now somewhat become a way of life to mask up and to get temperature scanned and to get tested in order for you to be able to still work outside of your home or work in an environment, in the actual working environment. That is slowly becoming the norm here. I think in terms of masks, in the past 2 weeks, we've seen a rapid increase in the use of masks. And certain organizations are already using thermometers to check, to make sure that people don't have a fever when they're coming within the workplace. The other option that we do have as well is being able to work from home, safely away from possibly being infected by the coronavirus. But this also means that we will need to understand what the limitations are and what some of the methods are to still be able to deliver. Now, for some of us, this is like a dream come true. We can finally just work from home. We don't need to go anywhere. Some of the introverts among us are extremely happy. Those of us who really derive our energy from the inside. Finally, I don't have to deal with this number of people. For some of us who really like that level of interaction, it can be quite a drag just being by yourself as well. But we have to understand that when we have taken the responsibility of operating from our home, that it can come with some challenges, and it is important that you remain motivated to deliver the results for yourself. Now, in many cases, we think about time management, and really, I would venture to say that there is no such thing as time management. It is just self-management. Every single one of us on the call has exactly 24 hours. And so it really depends on how we use our 24 hours. Similarly to being in an organization, it is important that you actually make your schedule and then stick to it. I've been talking to many people, and they actually really appreciate the fact that they can actually sleep a little bit later now because they don't have the commute to work. But then you can very easily as well creep into oversleeping and then cutting into your schedule of the things that you had planned to keep and to do. Setting up a calendar with important dates is extremely important. The best way to track what you are doing is to actually have it laid out in a format that works really well. And I'll just pop across here for you to see an example of a calendar. So this would be my calendar, for example. If you are collaborating with others, it's easy for you to be able to see your colleagues' calendars as well. And this just keeps you on track with exactly what needs to be done on an ongoing basis. Checking in with your team members as well, knowing what they are doing. And again, if you use technology and they are also mapping out what they are planning to get done, it's easier for you not to create clashes in your schedule. And it's easy for you to also stay in the loop of what requires to be done. When you are working on your own as well, there is no manager, there is no supervisor, there is no lecturer, there's no teacher looking over your shoulder to make sure that you're using your time wisely. So any project, any task that you are pursuing, very important for you to start projecting and estimating how long a project or a task will actually take you, so that you can then time yourself. You can schedule the appropriate amount of time. You have to be very careful as well of distractions which can take place, which can actually cause you to not get your task and projects completed in a timely manner. Now, you will notice that certain tasks are better done in the morning, some are better done in the afternoon. In a remote working environment, you actually have the flexibility, the authority to play a bit with your schedule to really set maybe your analytical task for which you are sharper in the morning, pull the analytical task to the AM, and maybe the administrative task, the review-oriented tasks, maybe those could be pushed in the afternoon when your level of focus may not be as high. Make sure that you always have keep a track of your deadlines as well, because You don't want to be in a rush where the quality of work that you then present is not up to standard. For some of you who have to have access to your organization's databases, if you're a student, you might need to be able to log into the organization's platform where they have all their content stored. If you're someone who is working for an organization that deals with a lot of sensitive information, your company might actually have a virtual private network that you will need to be given access to. I would strongly encourage you to, the device that you're using, if it's provided by the organization, for you not to utilize it for purposes that can cause the company's data to be interfered with. Other simpler ways would have been the use of platforms or services like Google Drive, Dropbox, Microsoft OneDrive. In that case, it's very important for you to actually store your items, your folders in a very organized manner. If you look at for example, I use Google Drive, I use Dropbox, I use OneDrive, I use them for different purposes. But it's also very important that you store your information in an easy to find way. So like academic pursuits, everything would be in its own folder. If you do stuff with the private sector, right? Because the main way in which you can lose time is by looking for items and looking for files that you might have stored somewhere along the way and not being able to find them. That really causes a lot of lost time. Now, communication as well can sometimes be very difficult to master if you're working remotely. You therefore have to be very open and clear with what you need from the portions that you have to interact with, and you have to know to use the different methods. Some of the technology that you need to master are, the products in the Microsoft suite, and we will all be familiar with Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel. For this particular presentation, I am using Microsoft PowerPoint. Publisher is another Microsoft tool that is very useful in terms of creating flyers and brochures. But then you also have the video conferencing technology of Microsoft Teams. Some companies that have a paid version and some organizations that have a paid version of the Microsoft suite, they tend to utilize Microsoft Teams more because it's already integrated with their emails and their calendars and so forth. Other tools that allow you to keep on track are tools such as Slack and Asana. The Google suite of products also has the calendar that I just demonstrated. It also has a task management software, because one of the ways in which we generally get distracted is that we're working on something and something flashes across our mind and we start focusing on that or thinking about that, and we leave the item that we were working on. The easiest way is to either just take a notepad, the pen and paper, and I'm really suggesting that each one of you has your pen and paper or your digital notepad handy right now, because I'm sure that you'll want to capture some of these tips as well. But Google Tasks, for example, allows any flash that comes across your mind, you can just type it into that task manager. And if I were to quickly pull that up, so Google Task is actually this icon here, that things that just quickly fly across your mind, you're able to solve. And Google Keep, which is the one that looks like a light bulb, is the one that is really easy to capture complete ideas. So you do have to play around a little bit with these software so that you can really understand what will really serve you best. Video conferencing software, I did mention Teams already. Google also has Google Hangouts, which is video conferencing software. But I have noticed that in the past month, Zoom, which is the platform that we are on now, has become particularly popular. Many people like the functionality that Zoom provides. And I would strongly recommend that you check out, and I'll put it in the chat box here, zoom.us. And if you scroll down to the bottom of zoom.us, you'll see a tab called Trading Resources. There are 10 videos there that take you from being a very basic Zoom user to a user of Zoom that understands the full functionality. Most of these videos are about 2 to 3 minutes. So within about a half an hour, you'll have a really good understanding of how Zoom works. Skype as well, and Skype is now bought by Microsoft as well. So Skype has a free version. It also has Skype for Business, but it all depends on your own preference, but more so the preference of your organization. Because if everybody's on Zoom and you're the only one using Skype, it might be difficult for you to have that level of connection, and you may actually have to be the one who switches over to that new technology. Technologies such as WhatsApp, we all use WhatsApp for our personal purposes. WhatsApp also has a group feature that allows you to create a group, small or large, and communicate much faster. And I've also seen that people are using the groups in WhatsApp to be able to do video calls. So it works particularly well for, about 4 people, a group with 4 people. You can just click on the group call and you can have 4 videos on, and it's a little bit faster than having to operate through Zoom, where you have to have a Zoom link and sign in and all of that. So very fast calls that you need to make to quickly connect. WhatsApp video is a good example of that. Facebook also offers that video calling option. And if someone has found you on Facebook or wants to communicate with you on Facebook, and you have a Facebook account, that is also something that you can come to utilize really well. I would suggest that every one of you has a properly populated LinkedIn profile, because whereas on Facebook, you might share a lot of personal info, and organizations that are looking for people may also search your Facebook profile. So I'd strongly recommend that you don't put stuff there that's really going to put you in a bad light. And again, this is your personal choice. However, they also research you on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is a really great opportunity to list your your qualifications, your experience, because this is used by both people who may want to employ you, people who may want to collaborate with you, people who may want to buy your services. And anything that you may not be aware of, how it's done, really get very familiar with YouTube, because there are short videos on almost everything. And maybe the tip that I would want to give you there is, whatever you want to learn, just type in how to, and then the particular item that you want to learn. Because most people who have created user videos, they've usually titled them with how to. Then you also have custom software. Some of our organizations have software that is particularly developed for us. I know in my PhD course with Texila, Texila was using the Moodle platform, which I think they still do, but then it's customized for what Texila wants to deliver. It's also very important for you to get very familiar with the software that your organization is utilizing, so that you don't put yourself at a disadvantage. The award winner, Joshua Kisun, from Techlify, the software that they created was e-business. In some cases, if you're a really large user of software, or you really want it to be more efficient, you may also have to look at, maybe for your own organization, what the options are to have software that really meets your specific needs. Now, unlike being in the organization with everybody else around you that you can quickly ask a question, when you are by yourself, in order for isolation not to step in, you always have to ask yourself, whatever needs to happen, can you actually do it on your own, or do you need help? What is the next step that I should take, right? You want to make sure that you are in a situation where you don't, give me one moment. So you don't want to be in a situation where you believe that because you are by yourself, you have absolutely no support around you. You must first discover, is this something you can do? And then where are you going to get the help from? Now, how do you remain motivated? Very important. What are you seeking to really achieve? And I would ask each and every one of you, those of you, you can always type into the chat box, do you know what motivates you? When you're feeling down on a specific day, is there something that you know that will really do it for you? Right? So feel free to type into the chat box as well. Remember that every human being got where they are because they overcame certain challenges. Do you have a record of the challenges that you overcame? Has anybody ever sent to you, well, you know, this thing that you helped me here is really good? Some people are motivated by music. Some people are motivated by pictures of their family. So whatever it is, make sure that you have it at your fingertips so that when you do feel motivated and you're all by yourself, that you can quickly tap into a source of motivation. When you're by yourself as well, it is only you know, who needs to be accountable for their work. When you are in the organization, it's easy for you to drop into the background and maybe somebody else to pick up the slack. However, I would strongly recommend as well that you make some arrangements with your peers, and I have some of my peers here at the organization. These are the other coaches where we have peer accountability. So at the beginning of the week, every Monday, we lay out exactly what our own major goals are for the week. And then throughout the week, we check in with each other, we call each other, how's it going? Have you been able to do this? Is there any support that you need? So I would strongly encourage you as well, find a peer, a buddy that you can team up, let them know your goals, you know their goals, so that you can check in with them and keep each other accountable. Now, recognizing your own bad habits is not always the easiest thing, because the reason we have bad habits is because to some extent we do enjoy them. You know, waking up late, it's a reason why we wake up late, right? We do enjoy it to some extent, but then how is it really hurting you negatively? And if the way it hurts you negatively actually cost you more than the extra minutes or the extra hours of sleep, then it's about time to address that particular habit. Think about it. Is it something you can change? Can you go to sleep a little bit earlier in order to still get the amount of hours that you're looking to be able to get? What is the negative effect of that bad habit? Once you've discovered what it is, you then want to make sure, well, what change do I want to make? You know, at the moment, for example, I'm working on connecting, becoming a bit more creative, and in the courses that I'm doing, one of the simple exercises is, you know, if you're right hand dominant, use your left hand. So brush your teeth with your left hand, for example. On the first day, you might actually have to use your right hand again to do a second pass in case you missed any with the left hand. But by the first week, the second week, you can brush your hand as well with the left hand as the right hand. However, I actually had to take a marker and write it on my mirror, brush with your left hand, just to give me a visual reminder of the new habit that I've chosen for myself. So whenever you are choosing new habits for yourself, take a sticky pad, make a note of what it was, put it in the place where you have to act out that particular habit, so that you don't forget it and then just slip in back to your routine. And give yourself sufficient time. Habits aren't changed in a matter of hours or days. It takes weeks, and in some cases months, to really get used to that habit, for it to become a normal part of your routine. You have to be careful as well to not get caught up with the time wasters. So identify what they are. One of them that comes up a lot is the excessive checking of email. And for someone like me, I receive, you know, on average about 200 plus emails per day. I'm sure that you must be getting, you know, quite a number of emails as well. And if you think about it, if you do the mathematics, it works out to almost like an email every 5 minutes, which means that by the time you finish one email, the next one pops up. And if you don't really control yourself, you can actually sit and just focus on the emails the entire day. So what I would recommend in that case is picking 2 time slots during the day, one in the morning, maybe mid-morning, or if it's the first thing in the morning, and maybe one mid-afternoon, so that you then check your emails, and people who you have to respond to will get into that habit, that understanding that they will get a response from you. If they sent you an email in the morning and it didn't fit in your slot, that they will get a response from you in the afternoon. And if you don't get to hit it in the afternoon, they know for sure they're going to get a response in the morning from you. It all depends the level of demand that is placed on you. If you have a supervisor or you have someone who wants responses almost instantaneously, I would recommend maybe asking them to add you on WhatsApp, because WhatsApp is a little bit faster to respond than emails. But that again is something that you have to be careful about, because the more WhatsApp groups you belong to, not all of them might be very important. The ones that are not very important, I would strongly recommend that you put the notifications on silent. If they're completely useless to you, if the only thing that comes through that WhatsApp group is negativity that clouds your mind, strongly recommend that you exit that group. But if it is one that from time to time has some useful information, you can turn that notification and put it on silent so it doesn't buzz, it doesn't ring, and in your own time, you can go to that particular group and check it out. Personal phone calls as well. There might be some people at home right now that have absolutely nothing to do and they believe the same of you. So they might actually want to call you in the middle of the morning, middle of the afternoon, thinking that they can have a half an hour talk with you. And again, this could be very detrimental to your level of productivity. What I would recommend in that case is when you're answering the phone, let them know that you're still working, you're working for the organization and or yourself, and ask them how you'd be able to help them out. Right? So that it doesn't turn into a very long conversation, because if you don't say that in the beginning and 5 minutes, 10 minutes of the conversation goes by, you yourself might feel a little bit guilty of cutting off that information. So always start it off by letting them know, hey, how are you? I'm currently wrapping up this project, or I'm working on this task for myself or for the organization. How is it I can help you right now? And that turns what could be a half an hour conversation into one that is less than 5 minutes. Make sure that you have the things that you need close by to you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about location-wise, but make sure that you have the things that you need to be productive within hand reach. And I would strongly recommend as well that you determine every single day what are the big important tasks that you know you need to complete for the day, right? We call them the rocks, because if you don't determine what they are and if you don't schedule them in for the day, you can run the risk of being busy with time wasters the entire day. And if someone like me were to check with you and ask you, you know, Renee or Linda or Joycelyn, I ask you, you know, what were you able to get done for today? And if you weren't busy with the very important task, it is sometimes very tough. To your mind, you're going to ask yourself as well, what did I really achieve for today? A good exercise that we usually do is every afternoon we write down the list of the top 5 to 6 things maximum. We don't go past 6 that are the highest impact. And then we put them in order of priority. Now, I don't know if anyone of you are familiar with eating the frog, but if I were to tell you that, you know, Texila has arranged some very delicious frog legs at the end of this particular presentation, some of you might be thinking, well, yucky, I don't want that, I don't like that, until you taste it and you recognize how really good this tastes. It's like a delicacy, and it is a delicacy in most of the French world. And you might ask yourself, you know, why was I so scared of this? That is exactly what procrastination feels like. This big, important thing that you have to do, you keep putting it off, you keep putting it off. And when you finally do it, then you realize, oh, wait, I've wasted days, sometimes weeks. And the thing that I was wasting so much time for took me 15 minutes to get done. So when you have made your list, the biggest, yuckiest, toughest thing that you have to do that first thing in the morning. Because when you do that first thing in the morning, everything else looks like a breeze. And generally, some people, I usually get the question, well, what if I have 2 very big, ugly frogs to eat in the morning? I would usually just tell them, well, eat the ugliest one first. Right? Start with the toughest one first, and then it becomes so much easier for you to get done. That is, you know, a big one that we are able to utilize really well. In order for you to recognize that you're procrastinating, though, imagine yourself in this particular pose here that you see on the slide. At work, in between, you know, another 5, 10, 20 people. How long could you stay in this pose before somebody asks you, hey, what's going on? Right? So, however, when you are in your own workspace, in your own home, you could actually get lost in thought like this with nobody around to ask you, hey, what's up? A little tip that I've seen that I use, and I've seen other people use as well, is to just turn on your camera and leave it. If you work in front of a laptop, because that creates a level of awareness and self-consciousness about what you are doing. If you don't want to do that, another quick way is set up yourself or set up a mirror somewhere where you can see yourself. Right? So put it across from you, and that mirror is actually going to tell you what you're doing, because unless we can visually see ourselves, we can get lost in just our thoughts, and a lot of time slips away. I'm sure that some of us on the call here, we thought we were going to check Facebook for 2 minutes, and when we check our watch, it's 32 minutes would have gone because of the addictive nature of social media. So quick tip there. In laying out your home office, I would strongly recommend that you find an area that you wouldn't be interrupted, because interruptions as well can really cause you to go off track. If you are working at a dining table, again, it all depends on the amount of space that you have access to. If you have a smaller family, maybe separate the dining table in two and say, okay, we'll eat over this side, and on this other half here is where I'll have my work-related material. Or if you don't do that, you'll have to break it up every day and set it up back every morning. I would recommend, though, if you can set it up in a separate room or in the living room in a separate area where you can keep all your gadgets for productivity very close to you. If you need to use your calculators or your tablets or your headphones, make sure that you have everything in one place. And if possible, set up a backup system as well. So if it doesn't work particularly well, and I would also say with a laptop, right? Many people just have one laptop. If you can afford it, make sure that you have a second device. It might not be the same laptop. It might be a tablet. It might be even your phone, because many phones now have the level of functionality to do what you can do on a laptop. Make sure that you have some amount of backup, because, God forbid something would happen to this call right now with my laptop. I would need to very quickly switch to another device in order to continue delivering. Okay. The smallest item can make you lose focus. In my office here, I had some snacks. So when clients come into the room, they have something if they want to grab it. It turns out those snacks were the biggest thing distracting me, right? So think about it as well. If you are in your own home and you have kids or you have nieces and nephews and snacks lying about, or they're putting something on your desk and it's within your eyesight, it might actually be distracting you. So pay attention to what those distractions are and eliminate them. Right? Make sure that your area as well, especially if you're going to have to be on a video call, it would be good to be with your back to a wall or your back to an area that is, clean. Sometimes I see people are having meetings from their bedroom, for example, and the camera is exactly on their bed or on the bedside or whatever. And I would strongly suggest, that's not something that you would want to broadcast to the world. So always pay keen attention to the angle in which you are setting up. And again, that's why we recommend doing it in an area that can come across as professional. And we do understand the limitations of working from home. If and when the technology fails, make sure that you know of the people who can support you with getting you back up and running. Some technical glitches you may not be able to solve on your own. So if you belong to an organization, make sure that you know who the IT people are or who the manager in charge of that is. If you're working on your own, please make friends with someone who is better at technology than you are, so that you can quickly understand who do I go to when I need that particular level of support. Some portions might actually also be working in shifts. So it's very important to understand who you're taking over from and who you need to hand over to. Right? If you're working on a roster type of schedule and you are working from home, make sure that you understand how you fit into the wider picture. Using the right mediums as well. I've mentioned the various types ranging from as informal as Skype and Facebook to very formal, such as just email communication or Microsoft Teams. And also think about how urgent the message, right? People don't, as I recommended, they don't check their emails, or they shouldn't be checking their emails every minute. But if it's very urgent, you may actually just have to pick up the phone, right? If you really need that feedback, because the last thing you would want is that you have a meeting at the end of the day with your supervisor or with a colleague, and your colleague didn't check their email and it was something very critical, and then you tell them, well, I sent you an email, whereas it could have really been resolved in a matter of seconds or minutes by just picking up the phone and getting the response that you were looking for. As much as possible, always be clear and to the point. Remember, you're not standing in front of that portion that they can see your body language and understand everything about what you're trying to say. So be very clear. Not just state your point from the beginning and follow up, but also if you have to communicate negative news, I would strongly encourage you to only do that by phone. And if you can't do it by phone, do it by video conferencing so people can get some of the emotions that are coming along. Don't send negative news by email or by message, because then people will start interpreting things that you may not have meant as well. And then you have to go fix those assumptions that would have been made. It is a little bit harder to build trust when you are working from far away. So again, whenever you are communicating, video is always better. You can see if the person is interested. You can see if the person needs more explanation. You can see if the person actually agrees with you or disagrees with you. Right? And for those of you who are working at home and have multiple members of your family in the household, make sure that they understand that you're actually working. Now, this is not the industrial age where people could physically see how hard we work and how we sweat and what we do for 8 hours. Many of our jobs, we're typing away on the computer, we're talking to someone on the phone, we're reading a book, and that is part of our job. To our kids and to our spouse and to the other people in the family, they might be thinking that, how is this possibly a job? You can't be just chatting the entire day or just typing away, which means that maybe I can come and I can interrupt you. So let them know that what you do is actually a job or actually something that you have to focus on, and that you will need the time to focus, because in some cases they really may not know how serious your job is and how much attention you do need to focus on your job. I mentioned before, you can feel isolated because you don't have that level of interaction with people in the organization. So I would strongly recommend that you check in with your colleagues pretty often. What we have found works particularly well is a once a day check-in, either in the morning or at lunchtime, and provide the updates and status changes, because you don't have your supervisor there or the person you report to. You don't want to be working very hard on a specific thing and then the focus has changed without you being informed. Right? And sometimes you do have to take that into your own hands by making sure that if you provide the feedback, it's easier for someone to say, oh, shucks, sorry, it slipped me to inform you. However, the thing that we're focused on is no longer X, it's now Y. Right? When you are working from home, there is a tendency to have work and your home life blend into one. So do work on setting up some boundaries that, if you decided to work from 9 to 4, that at 4 you kind of, say, okay, great, I'm finished with work. I'll leave my work area now and I resume, my personal life. In the morning, some people actually just dress up completely. They walk out of the door, they walk, down the block, they come back, and then they're ready for work. They just switch themselves mentally in order to be able to get to work. And now that you've brought work home, find some places in your home as well that are just for relaxing. It might be in your yard, it might be under a tree, it might be in a different room that you don't bring work into. I mentioned that, less feedback. If you are the one who has to provide feedback, think about it carefully, because people will also be affected by the type of feedback that you provide. You don't want your feedback to come across as if the person on the other end, that person on the other end might have put in hours into their work, and you don't want to be dismissive of it because you didn't know how hard they worked on it. So always indicate what you like about what was done. And instead of making someone wrong, a better way to do it is maybe identify to them the areas that they could improve, right? And the core part of it is that you're still letting them know what needs to be addressed. But people are more likely, and we actually had a question like that on the first session, and I must tell you as well, any questions that you have, please throw them in the chat box. I will be dealing with them towards when we get to the Q&A, because there are a lot of practical tips that I want to start sharing with you after this slide. But when your team members need to be more engaged, to ask more questions, you would want to make sure that you are the type of person who seems approachable, who doesn't seem like you're going to attack them if they say something that is not in keeping. So talk to them in the form of, you can ask some questions as well that allow them to interact with you. And you can also share information that allows them to be right and to get that interactivity level up. So I do have, I think it's about 32 quick tips that will allow you to raise your productivity level. Wherever you're setting up, because we're doing a lot of audio and video calls, pick an area that is away from the noise, right? So if you're in the front of the house and you're near a major public road with a lot of traffic going back and forth, that can be very distracting for other people on the call. So pick an area or pick a room that is really away from the noise. If you do have air conditioning, fantastic. Air conditioning usually dampens the noise that can come from the outside. Be close to the router if you're using a Wi-Fi connection, because your own cell phone can interfere with your laptop Wi-Fi signal, causing the call to fluctuate. If possible, have a cabled connection. So make sure, run an internet cable from your router to your laptop or to your desktop, because that will allow for a much more stable connection. Whenever you have been invited to a Zoom call or a Skype call or whichever call, and you're creating the reminder on your calendar, save the link immediately on the calendar as well. Because you don't want to have to, now attend the meeting and you can't remember which email the link was in or which WhatsApp message the link is in. You want it to be fully under your control. Strongly recommend you to wipe your camera. Many people attend these events using their phones as well. And on the phone, the camera is located exactly where you place it against your ear. And if you're sweating or anything else, it could smudge up the camera. So when you turn on your camera, it's not very clear. So wiping your camera can also allow for a much clearer image to come across. Don't block your mic. So if I pick up my phone here, for example, if I were to hold the phone like this, or I'm holding it like this, the microphone is actually right at the bottom here. So if I'm holding it in a way that I'm blocking the mic, people might not actually be able to hear what you're saying. So you have to be very careful that you're not blocking your microphone. And even on your laptop, the microphone is usually located towards the front of the laptop, and I'll show you some pictures just now. Make sure that you don't drop a piece of paper on top of the mic or a book on top of the mic, because you might be talking away, but nobody might be hearing you. Always mute yourself when you're not talking, so that if somebody walks into the room where you're in and they start suddenly talking, because they may not know that you're on a call, that the rest of the people on the call don't get disturbed as well. And if you're in control of the meeting and you're presenting, like in this case here, the host can actually mute everyone else, so that people don't accidentally unmute themselves and then you hear the background noise. Whenever possible, get a phone or a laptop stand as well, and I'll show you some examples in the image coming up. But the phone stand is very useful, because if you have to be talking to people and the entire frame is shaking because you're holding the phone in your hands, it can get very distracting for the people who are looking on as well. If you do have to interact with people, it would be very useful to make sure that you dress for work. If you are working from home, I would say make sure that you dress for work at least from the waist up. But then I would recommend to you that you don't stand up for any particular reason if you only dress from the waist up. I will always recommend as well, use your phone in the landscape mode. This is the landscape mode. Many people tend to hold it this way, and then other people who are viewing what you're doing only see a narrow strip on their screen, when you could have really made more use of the space by turning your phone in the landscape position. Put your phone on silent as well when you're doing these calls, because if you're the one talking, or if you have yourself unmuted and your phone starts ringing or it starts vibrating, it can also distract the rest of the meeting. Check the lighting. So you wouldn't really want to sit in a place where a window is behind you or a source of light is behind you, because whenever you have a window behind you, the light comes from beside you and then you become very dark. People may not be able to see you. So if you can have the light above you or in front of you, would be much better, because then people are able to see you well. Get a good headset. Some devices do not cancel out the sound. So if there is other sound coming out from the speakers and you are talking, your microphone might actually capture that sound as well that is coming out from the speakers and create a lot of feedback. So if your device doesn't handle the sound particularly well, getting a good headset eliminates that reverberation and distortion in the sound. If you can as well, upgrade your computer. Sometimes we have a tendency to buy the cheapest possible computer, and then it freezes halfway through the call, or it cannot do the level of work that you want it to do. I'll show you, let me see if I can show you an example on that now. Right, I should probably do this first. The second one, have at least a 5 megabit internet connection. And let me pull this up here so you can see why. So this, for example, is the internet connection that I'm now using. You can see that I'm sending out about 1.3. If we had a lot more video, a lot more interactivity from my side, this would probably go up to 3, 4, 5. So that's why I'm recommending have at least a 5 megabit connection. In terms of a computer itself, you can see that most of my processors are running at about half, it's about 29%. You don't want to have a computer where the CPU is always maxing out, because the computer will be extremely hot and it can also cause failure in the computer. When it comes to the random access memory, RAM, many computers come with 8 megabytes or 16 megabytes. And you'll notice here that we're just running this particular meeting, I'm already using 15. So if I had a computer that was the maximum, you would actually see the video sticking right now. My slides wouldn't switch as fast as I would want to switch them. So be very keen about that. And you see the disk as well. I would always recommend that you get a solid state drive storage device. In the past, we used hard disk drives. The solid state drive, you'll notice here that it puts almost no pressure on this computer to find any data that is located on this computer, right? So these are some suggestions when it comes to the type of technology that you can use. Sometimes people also tell me that their Wi-Fi, power went off and therefore I can't continue. Don't forget that you can turn your mobile device into a mobile hotspot. So if you have data on your phone, you could activate the mobile hotspot settings and then connect your laptop to the internet via your mobile device. So test that out, because there may be some important events like exams or presentations where you do not want to be without an internet connection because of a power failure. Make sure that you still have some exercise. Now that you're working from home, you don't have to walk out of your house and get to your car or the vehicle and walk up the steps and all of that. So strongly recommend that you have at least 30 minutes of exercise daily. If you have to snack, make sure that you snack healthy. Don't snack on the kids' snacks. And if you have a lot of kids' snacks, make sure that it's, like fruits. And also remember that although we say that fruits are good, fruits also contain a lot of sugar. So binging on fruits can also cause you to take in a lot of sugar and convert that into fat. So snack very wisely and healthy. If you have family members around, the best way for them not to distract you is to train them how to help you. Because very quickly they'll be lost, right? Because they don't really want to be working for you, especially if you're not paying them. So I have, it's a very quick tip as well. Train them on how to help you, and it can go, it's a win-win situation. Either they do help you or they don't disturb you anymore. So very good. It works particularly well for the people who use that. If you do have a supervisor, report twice per day, because you never want to be focused on doing work that is not valuable. And if you let your supervisor know, I'm going to be focused on this thing here, and this is what I got done, your supervisor can tell you, yes, exactly, that's perfect, that's what I wanted. Or your supervisor can tell you, please stop immediately, that's not the thing I want you to focus on. I need you to focus on this other thing, right? And reporting allows you to really create that feedback loop much faster. All of us can use this opportunity as well to continue learning, to keep getting better, to sharpen our saw. So don't just keep learning without not scheduling a half an hour or an hour worth of learning on a daily basis. And some of you might be doing courses right now. You might actually need more time to do your learning. Don't leave your learning for when you have time. There's no such time. There will always be something that will come and interrupt you if you don't say that this is important and this is what you will do. Use a laptop, a tablet, and I put there a UPS as well. Why I recommend that over a desktop, I am located in Guyana. I know that some of the audience are not in Guyana. Hopefully you have a very good power supply. But in Guyana, we still have what we refer to as blackouts. So you don't want to be working on a desktop and then the power goes off and leaves you stranded. Most laptops are able to give you anywhere from 2 to 10 hours worth of standby power. But what you have to make sure is that the modem and the router, that you plug them into UPS, because it makes no sense having a computer as well and not being connected to the internet. So the UPS is a recommendation for your modem and your router to be plugged in. Get some sunlight, so make sure that you do walk around, maybe lunchtime, take a stroll outside for 5-10 minutes, get some of that much needed sunlight. And we are battling a virus, so make sure that you keep your immune levels at a very high level. Get your multivitamins, eat healthy. I did mention meeting with the team at least once a week virtually. Have an appropriate background. So in my case, I still prefer the actual banners because I don't want the glitches with technology, and I don't want the plain wall behind me. I'm in a role where it's important that even if I don't speak, my background still says something. So I have chosen, a quote that tells people that, the biggest risk you can take is to do nothing, sit on your hands and do nothing. And also, from a marketing perspective for Guyana, although our country is going through some difficulties, I still want to promote national pride. So instead of me having to say that, I can just have this up here, and as people are looking at the videos, they say, oh wait, that's nice, right? So it still sends a bit of a message. You also have the option, and I'm going to see if I can drag this across here. Hopefully you can see the little control bar, but you can also go and set up a virtual background. And with the virtual background, there are some preloaded ones for which you would actually need a green screen behind you in order for you. You see how you can see some glitching around my hands right now? This is because I don't have a green screen behind me. So if you do want to use these virtual backgrounds really well, it's important that you set up a green screen. Some other useful tools, if you agree with someone, instead of having to type into the chat box or this, green means, I'm good. Set up the rules for your organization. If you don't agree, maybe you turn it red. So people will know that, oh wait, I need to come to you because you don't seem to agree with what I'm saying. You can have a branded background as well, right? You can have branded backgrounds. And sometimes you can also just, have your background for fun. It doesn't always have to be very serious, and you can also remove it. So these are some of the tools that you also have some access to as well. I did mention, the green screen, and a green screen could just be green cloth that you put behind you, but please make sure that it's also well lit, because if the green screen also has shadows, it will not function optimally. Use a second screen. You can be far more productive by having a second screen, and I'll show you a photo just now of how that looks. The best way to keep yourself accountable, and normally I make a joke when I'm hosting these sessions, and I ask everyone who has a camera on their device to turn on their camera. And sometimes I say, everyone who's well dressed or dressed, please turn on your camera. Because when your camera is on, it makes you more conscious to pay attention to the activity at hand. Because it's so easy to turn off your camera and be focused on everything else and lose some of the content and some of the value that is coming on. So, and for me, generally, nearly all the meetings I'm on, I would usually just make sure that I leave the camera on because it keeps me focused on the meeting at hand. I'll show you as well a picture just now of a device that you can use to raise your monitor or raise your laptop so you can actually stand up and work, to give you so much needed blood circulation and work and exercise. And you can also, once you start, squatting is a very good exercise because it exercises a big muscle that you have in your legs and in your glutes. I did mention proper lighting. If you have to get the wireless mouse, go with the wireless mouse, because this mouse here, just moving it activates it. Unlike a Bluetooth mouse, you actually have to click it before it activates. So a little technology tip there for you. And always have a notepad handy. Yeah, please have a notepad handy so that any thoughts that flash across your mind, you can quickly capture them. This is an example of a second screen. So you can see the device that I'm using right now. And this is the second screen. And all you do is you take a HDMI cable, you plug it into your main device, and then you connect it to another screen. You can take, if you had another desktop, you can always take the screen alone and connect it to your laptop. Desktops can also have a second screen. And you can also, most televisions can also be connected to a laptop or a desktop to create that second screen. And what it does, it just extends your screen, it doubles the space. So you can have, I could, for example, run a PDF over here and a Word document here. So if I need to read from the PDF, I don't need to keep opening the PDF and minimizing it to go back to Word. I leave the PDF here so I can look at it, get some thoughts, and then I type into the Word document. And the couple of seconds that I save over time add up to a high level of productivity. This is a laptop stand that you can use. So today I am sitting, but generally I would stand up, especially if I want to raise my energy level. If there's a lot of interaction, I would make sure that I raise the laptop, and then I stand and I deliver on that. And you also would like to have a comfortable chair. So if you do have the resources to do so, this is the one that I'm utilizing right now. Where if you wanted to take a rest, but you didn't want to go to your bedroom, for example, or the sofa, you can just throw back on one of those chairs. It allows you to, make sure that it's very comfortable, or else you may want to keep moving away from the space where you really could have been doing a lot of productive work. Understand that as human beings, we will need to interact with other human beings. We do function better and we can deliver more as a team. So whatever you have learned here, it is very important for you to teach it to others, right? Because the fastest way for you to know that you learned something is when you have the ability to teach it to someone else. We do want to be able to, it makes no sense that I'm very productive and I'm the most productive member of the team and everybody else is left far behind, because it doesn't benefit the organization, it doesn't benefit the team in that way. So I would like to thank you for your attention, and I do want to take a look at some of the questions. Maybe Saki, are you going to moderate this, or do I pull them out of the chat?
You can go ahead, Vishnu.
right? So I did see that Linda mentioned, being motivated by sewing, drawing, and music. So, one example that I have, if I ever need to feel motivated on my home screen, I actually have the song it's called Happy by Pharrell, and it's on the home screen. So if I click on it, it immediately starts playing. And it's very hard, regardless of the mood you might have been in, it very quickly changes your mood. So I'm sure that every one of us here might have a song that does the same. Download it and put it on your home screen. You'll be amazed by how it changes your day, right? So if someone angered you, before you respond, play the song, and you'll see how much different your response actually is, right? All right. So I see quite a few people asking for the presentation as well. So I'm sure Shakti is going to give you some feedback around that. How do you get the green screen? So you can purchase it on Amazon. These green screens sell for anywhere between $20 for the very simple ones, so almost $100 for the ones with the complete lighting kit. I have one that we just made right here. We just bought the cloth and we have a frame around it. So you could also make it yourself. The reason it's a green screen is that generally, if you look at yourself right now, whatever you're wearing, it's hardly likely that you have green on you right now, right? And when you are using a green screen, that's why when you go on television, they always tell you don't wear green, because you can blend into the background if they have a green screen going on right now. Right, do we have a similar presentations for students in a high school? We have actually recently done one that is more for high schoolers. And I'm seeing a lot of thank you here. I don't think that I missed any. Right, so if there are any other questions, please feel free to ask. And I thank you so much for your attention. And Sakti, back over to you.
Thanks a lot, Vishnu, for this, a wonderful presentation. I guess this would have given more insights for the working professionals, how to handle the present situation, as you know that we are everybody working from home. And the tips you shared is very good. I mean, I guess these tips would be taken religiously by, including me. I mean, I guess everybody would take the same and try to incorporate in their professional work. Yeah, and I see a couple of them requested for the presentation. Unfortunately, once the the webinar is done, all the chat message and everything would be disappeared. So I would appreciate, I have shared my email address and my WhatsApp number. Please do make a note of my email address. It's at tauedu.org, which I've already mentioned on the chat. You could have a look at it. Please do copy the email address, and you could send me an email stating that you need the presentation. I will be happy to send the presentation to you. And you could also feel free to WhatsApp me. I left my WhatsApp number as well. And yeah, for the other working professionals, and we want to let you know that Texila is not only a medical school, we also have courses in regards to the business administrations. We have about more than 10 specializations, including the oil and gas, marketing, supply chain and logistics, finance, accounts, likewise, and also in the field of public health. So you could know more about it. I mean, at the same time, we would like to inform, so whoever participated today in this webinar would be provided an opportunity with a free certification program. And the certification program, the duration are from 1 month, 2 months, and 3 months. And the certification programs are in the administration, psychology, computer science, business management, public health. So we have different fields. So those information will be sent to you guys. I mean, probably mostly by next week. And you can pick a topic, whichever you would like to go, and you can enroll it for free. And once you complete the program, you would get the online certification to your email. That's pretty much from my end, Vishnu. I guess if any participants having any questions, you can shoot it right now, and or if you would like to clarify anything, you could always send an email. Please do make a note of my email address, which is on the chat box. And if you need presentation, do feel free to text me, and we will be happy to assist you. So thanks a lot for all the participants for your valuable time present to this webinar. And Vishnu, thanks once again for this the excellent presentation. And we will look forward to meet the people from Guyana and from the Caribbean once again with a different topic.
Thank you very much, Sakti. Thanks for the opportunity, and everyone all the best. And I look forward to working with you again in the future.
Great. Thanks a lot, guys. Stay safe. Stay home.